Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be a January-February update because I missed January. Mostly because not a lot happened in January. I did read some stuff and watch some stuff, but for the most part you can assume that most of the stuff that I'm about to talk about has been going on in February.
Silhouettes of you are like a taunt. Never really know just what you want.
Probably the single most important thing that has happened to me these past 2 months is that my all-time favorite kombucha flavor came back on the market because of February. This is the blood orange hibiscus rose flavor. If you don't like kombucha, I would still try this. Like, I am really not a huge kombucha fan. Some of them are just way too like vinegary for me, but this stuff is so good. I'm actually really sad that it's going to come off market. I think because it's like a special edition, I think I'm going to go to the grocery store later today and like see if they have any left and just buy all of them. So a little bit more seriously than that, let's see. My husband and I went on our first weekend trip without our toddler. It was bittersweet. You know, we had a good time, but we did miss our baby boy. So it was nice. We pretty much just relaxed, ate a ton of food. There was an indoor pool in our hotel. And then we went to the Ripley Aquarium, which I love aquariums. Obviously, clearly this channel is chock full of aquarium footage. Sorry, not sorry. I'll put in the footage, but like I have never actually seen up close an octopus eye as close as I got this time, and I was like mesmerized. It was so surreal. I don't even know the word to describe like how weird and cool octopus eyes are. So that was a lot of fun. And then we also went to the oh my goodness, I keep calling it Azkaban. It's not, that's not the right. Alcatraz. We went to the Alcatraz Museum. I liked the historical part. Like they had a section on Prohibition, which I was super into because my mind is working on something that I can't actually form into words yet, but it's like one of those story dust bunnies and there's something there. We'll come back to it maybe in 10 years, who knows. But I enjoyed the historical part, not so much when we got into the modern day stuff because I don't like dark stuff like that. I like whimsical, spooky, like more along the lines of Tim Burton than I do like the real true crime stuff, podcasts and all that. I don't get into stuff like that. Probably the actual biggest thing that's been going on the past couple of months, well, I guess it started in February, but is that I'm taking Publish and Thrive, Sarah Cannon / Heart Breathing's self-publishing course, and let me tell you, it is worth all the pennies. I can already tell all of my fears surrounding self-publishing kind of melting away just because it is chocked full with so much information, and the things that she is unable to go in depth with, she still brings to your attention so that you can do your own research. So that's like this huge weight off my shoulder. Like a lot more research still needs to happen. A lot more books still need to be written, but I do feel like self-publishing is like an actual option for me now that I'm taking this course. Like I feel way more prepared, and of course we're still like halfway. I think we're like a little over halfway through at this point. We're on module 4, which I haven't done yet, and it's like the first marketing one, so I'm really excited about it. Of course everyone loves all the marketing stuff, but even pre-marketing stuff I'm learning things that I had no idea even existed. So yes, it has been needed and exactly what I was hoping it would be. So yes, chef's kiss, thank you Sarah Cannon. I haven't watched a ton of TV just because I have been so incredibly busy, but I did watch Wednesday, which I loved Wednesday. I think that's probably the general consensus. Like I feel like they did it so well, and like, well, Tim Burton did it, and I'm a huge Tim Burton fan. Like I've already even mentioned him in this video. Yeah, he did it super well. I think my only critique would be that the relationship between the parents, I don't feel like the chemistry is all there. I think the casting, like, visually was perfect, but, like, where's the chemistry? Their relationship is like goals for me. So that's like it's like a nitpicky thing for it that I'm just like, but they, yeah. I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad. It still ticks the boxes, but like, is it iconic chemistry between them? I don't know. And like, that's not even the point of the show. The point obviously follows Wednesday and all of her adventures, so like, it doesn't actually matter, but yeah. So I think next I'll get into the books that I've read this month and then talk about some writing stuff. So I actually read 2 craft books this month. This is Story Genius by Lisa Cron. I feel like we have all thoroughly discussed this book on YouTube, Authortube. But I guess to give my 2 cents on it, it is like a great writing 101, understand the basics book. Pretty much like the golden nugget of this book is that when you're plotting your book, don't just think of the external plot, think of the internal plot. If you already understand that your story is about the internal conflict and character arc of your main character, then you get the point of this book. So if you're into other plotting methods and you understand that part, then I don't think this is like a must purchase. But on the flip side of that, if you're having trouble with like the heartbeat kind of thread of your story and like really getting that full character arc, this will probably help you. So it's kind of just subjective in where you're at in your writing process. But I will say the way she talks is very much so in absolutes, and I don't think those absolutes are necessarily true. But obviously everything in here that she's saying I think is very important. I think you need to understand it, but I think the way that you apply that can be different than what she's saying you have to apply it as. I really enjoyed the like kind of origin story of where your character learns their misbelief. That's something I do already, and I do think it adds like a certain realness and layer to your character. So I liked that that was added in this book, and I liked that it was like really understand your character's backstory because that is what is informing their present. So that was cool. Pretty much if you're struggling with internal motivation and character arc, this book is for you. The second craft book I read this month was 7 Figure Fiction by T. Taylor. This book was interesting in that it was a concept that I hadn't really thought about before, and like the golden nugget of this book, I guess, is to start to identify and write about and put into your writing all of like the human fantasies that we have, like all of the scenarios we fantasize about. Now, she is a romance author, so I feel like that point was easily grasped with like romantic fantasies, but it goes beyond just romantic fantasies. It's like, you know, you fantasize about quitting your job. That's not romantic at all, but it is a human fantasy where you would like barge into your office and maybe yell at the horrible boss that you've had, kind of thing. Basically, like, identify those very relatable human fantasies that we all have, all those scenarios we fantasize about, and put them into your writing, and then also use that to market your book. So it was a very interesting read and easily understandable through the lens of like a romance author, which made it easy in my mind to apply to all of life. So yeah, I think this is a really interesting marketing tool. It's definitely an intriguing concept to add to like the writing craft universe, and I think it pairs really well with where I'm at with like learning about self-publishing and marketing anyway. And even if you get traditionally published, you're going to be expected to market your books. So I think this is one of like the most helpful marketing tools I have read. So the first fantasy book I read this year, which it was a great book to kick the year off with, was, let me see, From These Dark Depths by Vanessa Rosnan. Hopefully I'm saying her name right. I read this book on my Kindle, so I'll pop the cover up on the screen. And it is a sequel, so I can't really get into what it was about. I'll just say the first book in the series is called On These Black Sands, and it is a pirate fantasy fae adventure. So if you're into that kind of stuff, you definitely need to check this series out. The third one comes out this year. I guess I'll just tell you a little bit about the first book so I don't give anything away, but it is essentially about this like council person's daughter who meets a pirate who is acting under like the council's law, and she ends up on his ship and they are going on an adventure for a magical dagger. There's swashbuckling and slow burn and morally gray characters and the only one bed trope. I would say it's enemies to lovers. Like, it's got all the things. So if you're into pirate adventures, or even if you're not into pirate adventures, then you want to see if you are into pirate adventures, just read the book. Read the book. It's good. Lastly, you guys, this book. Like, I get it now. The first book was like pulling teeth to get me to read it for some reason. But I get it now. I get the hype after this book, and I'm not even completely done with it. Where am I at? I have this much left, and yeah, it makes sense. So if you haven't read these and you want to without any spoilers, just be aware that I'm about to say some things that aren't spoilers but allude to spoiling. Pretty much the first book of the series is just a huge setup book, and I think that I picked up on that somehow while I was reading it, because I just thought it was like pulling teeth and I couldn't understand like what was so amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, it's a good book. But like the hype of that book compared to what I was reading, I was like, what is going on with this series? I don't know if I get it. But now I do. I think everyone who reads this series gets it because of this book. Yeah. I'll just say that the main male character of this book is maybe one of the best main male characters of any book I've ever read, simply because of all of the layers that she has written into him. And I'll be the first to say, like, this is a chunky book, and your girl just never makes it through these things. The last book I read that was anywhere near this length was a Harry Potter book in middle/high school. Like, and I'm not in high school anymore. Like, I don't read books like this. And I will say, this one goes so much faster, and it's because the pacing is perfect. Like, her training and learning about her abilities, the way that she paced that out, so good. It's so good. Like, I get like the whole point of this book is the romance aspect of it, but I have been blown away by everything else. Like the unraveling of their past and how she uses the backstory on everything, which again is what Lisa Cron is getting at. Like, do this with your characters. Know their backstory, know their layers. Like, that is the whole point of that Story Genius book, I feel like. This book does that so well, and like the war aspect of it is not overpowering, but you're still making moves like politically and war wise. Like, there's just so much done right in this book that it's like, yeah, like I can't not be a fan after reading it, just because of like how good the writing is and how well plotted and thought out the story is. Let's be honest, I'm finishing this book today. I'm counting it as a February read, which means I read 2 books a month, which means I am on track for my reading goals this year. Whew, just by the, what is it? The skin of my teeth. I don't know what that even means. By the skin of my teeth, I am on point for my goals. That was a lot of talking. Lastly, on to writing. I don't have a ton of updates. I think I just have like 2 because I have been working on all of this and taking that class. Also, I totally forgot to mention that I have been working on launching a second channel that will focus solely on planner and pretty sticker planner spreads. So if you're into that kind of thing, it's probably coming out in Q1, maybe Q2. We'll see. But I have been working hard on that. So in my writing, there's not a ton to update you guys on. So the first update is, just in case I haven't said this directly, I am querying Kiss of the Dragon, which is my YA gothic romance travel book. And it's pretty much like a meta-inspired Beauty and the Beast meets like the Vampire Diaries, like the historical storylines of the Vampire Diaries. So I am in the query trenches. You probably won't get any more updates other than that, just because that's just where we are. Update number 2, which I kind of already talked about in my last video at the end. I have a sequel idea for it. That's not even true. I have a trilogy idea for it, and I am working on plotting out book number 2 and kind of book number 3. So that's going to be our next project. I know it's not exactly what I was planning for, because I wanted to go back to my Peter Pan story, but I had a really cool sequel idea for it that I cannot get out of my mind. So we're writing a trilogy, I guess, which, to be honest, it's probably smarter to like dip my toes into a series and write a trilogy before I start on a whole 5 or 6 book series with the Neverland stories. So that's what we're doing. We're writing a sequel. We are thinking about participating in Camp Nano in April. I don't know if I would do a full 50,000 word Nano, but maybe 30. I don't know. That's where we're at with it. I'm very interested to see how this goes, because if the trilogy goes well, then I feel a lot more confident hopping into that 5 or 6 book Peter Pan retelling. It is now March, which is the last month of Q1, and I have a lot of goals that I'm still trying to work through for Q1. So yeah, it's going to be a very busy, jam-packed, hopefully fun month, and hopefully I can bring you guys along for some of it. So that pretty much does it for my January, February updates. If you enjoyed this content, you want to stick around and see where this trilogy idea goes, then don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you all have an amazing upcoming month, and I can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye!